That's how you're still sitting. What? Who is that out, I wonder? Hold on, what took place? Wait a minute, Charlie. Is this accurate? Some people were watching a vehicle pursuit in the back room, away from our news desk, and they were laughing when we were covering Charlie Kirk's assassination. Acquired his karate. I simply saw him clutch what appeared to be his neck, and his eyes were kind of rolled back, and blood was streaming everywhere. The more we discover about Charlie Kirk's tragedy, the more it appears like everything was prearranged, practiced, and even choreographed, right down to the escape path and final hand signal, rather than being a tragic accidental event. An individual uses a powerful weapon, fires one shot, kills his target inside what we believe to be a 200-meter range, and then flees without anyone noticing. The corporate media has already published this picture of the purported lone wolf in an attempt to blame it on him. Politicians are expressing their sympathies and making their customary public relations pronouncements in the meanwhile. President Obama stated, "We don't yet know what motivated the person who shot and killed Charlie Kirk. But this kind of despicable violence has no place in our democracy. Tonight, Michelle and I are going to pray for Charlie's family, particularly for his wife Erica and their 2 small children." However, papers revealing a completely different story are being leaked by TMZ. Someone higher up allegedly planned it and hired a professional sharpshooter. These 2 individuals appear to have exchanged covert hand signals just seconds before the shot was fired, according to reports. The expertise and accuracy required to pull this off, a well-planned escape, a backup getaway jet, and numerous more oddities. 200 yards and hit the target's jugular in an instant. How could that not be a hit in the industry? Additionally, the gunman disappeared so neatly, as an unidentified elderly man in the throng served as a decoy to divert the attention of the police. And consider how convenient it would be if this were a setup. The island's dark secrets are beginning to come to light. Both the left and the right no longer publicly defend our alleged greatest ally. The 2-party system is beginning to be questioned. This occurred just as a political moment was about to blow up. Was that a coincidence then? The most important thing to consider is who stands to gain from the United States of America being more divided and preoccupied than ever before. However, it reaches a point where, for instance, I am sometimes less able than real Israelis to criticize the Israeli government online, due to blowback. Okay, let's begin with the shot itself, which is the most glaring flaw in the official narrative. Authorities want us to believe that Charlie Kirk was killed by a single, well-placed shot across a packed campus after a random college student snatched a bolt-action rifle, mounted a rooftop, and did it. There was only one clean hit, no missed rounds. Without significant training, you just don't do that. Closed-circuit television on campus is the sole source of information we have on the suspect, the potential gunman. We are aware that you are dressed entirely in dark attire. The shot originated from a position on campus, namely from a roof. Well, maybe from a roof, indeed. A shot from a roof at a greater distance. Stuart Kaplan, a former FBI agent, now joins us. What can you tell us, Stuart? They informed us of this. Well, there's no indication of what the individual was or who they are. East of the school library, a long rifle sits atop a structure. Someone with a black mask, pants, and a black vest. We only know that. The same person had the option of causing additional mass casualties, but instead they choose to uphold their discipline. After getting up and taking the shot, they left the area. The fact that this person got the lay of the land to know how to get onto this rooftop and then how to very quietly exit unobserved at this point suggests that there was a survey conducted before yesterday. This is where things start to get messy. According to several recently disclosed documents, the gunman was a member of a professional group rather than acting alone. Additionally, a video of the 2 guys ostensibly signaling to one another seconds prior to the shot has gone viral on social media. Now, if this is his security team, this might just be completely typical. However, it's still unclear who these men are and whether they were hired especially for this occasion or if they were Charlie's regular bodyguards. That's not all, though. A private plane was seen taking off from a small adjacent airfield almost soon after the gunfire. A private aeroplane with the tail number N88 Kiyagori reportedly took off from a nearby airfield just 12 minutes ago. The jet unlawfully disappeared from radar 30 minutes into the flight, then returned to the Provo airport after a brief reappearance. Was this the escape plane used by the assassin? And why isn't it being covered by the mainstream media? The weapon itself is another odd element. According to the Wall Street Journal, the official said it was conveniently discovered abandoned in a wooded area close to the site. However, there is absolutely no proof of this, and neither the gun nor the ammo were made public. Naturally, this narrative is still in progress, so we are unable to draw any firm conclusions at this time. However, when you consider everything, the planted gun, the alleged hand signals, the enigmatic plane, and the precision shot, this doesn't seem like a random act. It shouts contract employment. And who was responsible for paying for it if it was a contract job? And why had Kirk suddenly become expendable? Why would anyone want to remove Charlie Kirk? Why now too? Kirk was a helpful loudspeaker for the right, as we all know. He kept the culture wars going, rallied the college students, and promoted the same old talking points. Do you think that Black people in this country are treated the same as other people of color and have equal opportunities? Black people in this country in particular have never had the chance to rebuild their lives. A significant portion of the Reagan government, which lasted forever and whatever, was also involved in the devastation of the Black family. How is the absence of fathers the fault of the government? We could go into the whole thing with crack infants and crack drugs, for example. However, isn't drug use a decision? Oh no, 100%. Is it a choice to commit crimes then? Indeed, all right. Therefore, the government did not treat them that way. Individuals made the decision to use drugs. Charlie contributed significantly to the system, but just as long as he waited his turn. And things began to go apart at that point. Charlie seems to have veered off course in the weeks before his murder. His handlers became concerned when he began to challenge the system. When someone feeds you, you don't bite them back. Additionally, Jewish donors have a lot of explaining and detaching to do because they have been the primary source of money for charitable organizations, cultural institutions, and radical, neoliberal, quasi-Marxist policies. Secular Jews are the ones who created this beast. The time is another factor. Conveniently, Kirk made the news just before Trump's letter scandal was about to flare up. Charlie was actually photographed the day after the Trump birthday card was made public. So once more, when the media cycle changes from this, who gains? And let's not pretend that the nation hasn't eliminated individuals who misbehaved in the past. The same strategy has been used in many ages and political contexts. When someone begins making connections they shouldn't have made, or when their platform expands beyond the gatekeeper's control. A bullet is suddenly waiting. JFK experienced what happened to Charlie Kirk. Either you understand what I'm talking about, or you're going to be totally lost. It wasn't just any violent act. It was a hit professionally. We all agree that we know who did it, even though opinions throughout the nation seem to be utterly divided on what happened to him. I will also be offering my condolences to his family, even if I disagree with some of his very strong and radical views. However, they are attempting to divert your attention from more than just the client list and island files at the moment. Did you know that Gen Z in Nepal toppled their governments in a day only a few days ago? Do you believe they want you to be motivated and aware of that? In a single day, Gen Z in Nepal overthrew a prime minister, led to an unprecedented military intervention, and altered the history of their nation. What did they do then? It all started on Monday morning. On the streets, thousands of young Nepalese are calling for corruption to stop. It was mayhem by the afternoon. Crowds burst through barricades and motorbike-wielding mobs rushed into parliament. In response, police used live rounds, rubber bullets, water cannons, and tear gas. What then caused it? Years of corruption scandals, ranging from dubious Airbus transactions to politicians' children showing off their wealth on TikTok. The abrupt prohibition of social media apps like Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and WhatsApp was the final straw. On Tuesday, the protests grew more intense even after the administration lifted the restriction. The young people were so incensed that it didn't matter when the prime minister resigned. This marks the resignation of Nepal's prime minister. However, as you can see, demonstrators are still upset and are actively damaging public property. The PM's private home, official buildings, and even establishment-affiliated media outlets were set on fire by protesters. They claim that NEB's leaders have not delivered for decades. There have been 14 governments since the monarchy was abolished in 2008. For the majority of Nepalese, however, corruption, unemployment, and slow growth continue to be the norm. This is when it becomes even more profound. Charlie Kirk was not spared because of his political views, his skin color, or his right-wing allegiance, as many people are pointing out. He was removed because the system requires sacrifice at times. Consider the timing. Given that it occurred just 24 hours before Tucker Carlson's new documentary on the 9/11 attacks was released, the day before 9/11 appears both highly symbolic and appropriate. And simply take a look at how quickly the story is currently being misrepresented. The narrative quickly switches to a radical child who has been indoctrinated by awakened ideology. The shooter is no longer the only target. Anyone who fits that caricature is the target. The public's ire is diverted, and all of a sudden, rather than looking up, the left and the right are at each other's throats once more. We have seen this playbook before, a story that further polarizes Americans, an easy villain, and a public trauma. Additionally, some that stand to gain from online arguments just observe the mayhem. This is the process of division. Make a show, assign blame, force people into camps, and then watch as the public rips itself apart. It's also older than 9/11, older than Charlie Kirk, and older than any of us. Kirk's assassination burying questions about the island. Trump's handlers, and most importantly, who's really in charge is similar to how 9/11 burying questions about who truly benefited from continuous war. The same individuals who benefited from 9/11, the wars, the surveillance state, and the constant terror also stand to gain from this upheaval. Whether Kirk was left-wing, right-wing, or no-wing is irrelevant to them. They are concerned that his passing forces you to take sides and battle your neighbor rather than consider the true power brokers. Charlie said this just 48 hours before he was removed, by the way. Additionally, a friend of mine told me something that, strangely, goes much beyond the news headlines. Thus, be open-minded and ask questions about anything. Additionally, whenever the nation is plunged into anarchy, you should always consider who stands to gain. Instead of looking up to those in charge, who gains when the left and right are at odds with one another? And you're missing the point if you're out there debating with strangers on the internet whether the gunman was left, right, or somewhere in the middle. Additionally, based on what I'm observing on social media, the Scout is already winning people over. When my colleague was about to inform me that Charlie Kirk had been shot, I said, "Good." She was in a frenzy. During our lengthy discussion, she says, "Well, you can't hate people for their political views." I respond, "Yes, I can. Like, that's the precise reason I occasionally despise people. Since my opinions do not violate your rights, you cannot despise me for them. Since my beliefs don't affect your life, you don't despise me for them. Some of these opinions are harmful. I'm also happy that he was shot. I hope he passes away. I don't give a damn." Asking why the story was constructed that way in the first place is a better course of action. Begin to wonder who benefits from the mayhem and why these sacrifices always appear just when the system most needs them. As always, please share your thoughts regarding all of this in the comments section.